Are you a business owner stuck in fear, doubt, and worry about what the marketplace will look like in the future? Then this show is for you. Strap on your seatbelt and get ready to disrupt and innovate. Here's your host, Lisa Levy.
Today we have a truly remarkable guest joining us, Celeste, the Empress of Trademarks. She is an expert in trademark registration and protection and has made it her mission to empower brands globally. With her company Grand IPR, Celeste helps entrepreneurs and businesses protect their unique brand identity through distinctive trademarks. In a world where brand vulnerability is a growing concern, Celeste understands the importance of safeguarding your business empire. Without a registered trademark, your brand may be exposed to potential risks, such as a loss of revenue or damage to your reputation. That's why Celeste emphasizes the need to protect what you create before it's too late. With her expertise, she ensures that your trademark not only stands out, but also meets the requirements for registration. What sets Celeste apart is her unbroken track record of 100% trademarks registered. Yes, you heard me right. Every trademark filed has been accepted and subsequently registered. Celeste's meticulous attention to detail, combined with her extensive knowledge of intellectual property rights, makes her an invaluable resource for anyone seeking trademark protection. But her journey goes beyond just being a trademark specialist. She was inspired by her maternal grandfather's influence and her creative family members. Celeste fell in love with intellectual property and embraces her dyslexic thinking, which allows her to approach matters with a unique perspective. Join us today as we dive into the world of trademarks, brand protection, and the exciting possibilities that lie ahead in this episode. Celeste, I'm so excited to welcome you to our conversation.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me. It is a great honor for me to be here. And thank you for the beautiful introduction.
You're so very welcome. I love what you've done and who you are, but I can only do it so much justice. Would you take us on your journey, tell us your story, and let the audience understand how you got to where you are today?
So as a child, I actually did not like or enjoy school much. I certainly did not enjoy homework. However, for some reason, at a very young age, I was very sort of drawn towards law. And as you mentioned, it was my maternal grandfather who influenced that. Not that he spoke to me about law in any way, shape, or form. However, it was always sort of permeating the environment at their house, his and my grandmother's house. And I just managed to make myself believe that I wasn't intelligent enough to study the law because he had studied the law and I felt that he was so intelligent. And then my older brother had his arm twisted to study the law and he hated it. He totally hated it. But I did not know that because I that was not what I saw. So when I reached the age of 30, I thought, I better do something about this because I kept asking my older brother questions of a legal nature and he could not answer me. And so I thought, okay, maybe I have to do this myself, And then what I did, and I can't remember the exact timeline of it, but I say that I looked at 5 people at my equestrian club. I used to ride a lot. I don't have a horse at the moment, so I don't ride at the moment, but I still love horses. But I would look at 5 females at my equestrian club and say to myself, she has studied the law and she's not more intelligent than me. If she can do it, then so can I. And then it took me another 4 years to pluck up the courage of actually putting in the application. And I knew that spelling wasn't my strong point and grammar isn't my strong point. And then you think, well, that's a bit strange because you speak 6 different languages. And that's true. And I'm dyslexic in all 6 of them. I'm somebody experiencing dyslexia in all 6 of them. I need to remember to distance myself from it. I applied when I was 34 to study the law. And then the university replied back to me saying, you have been accepted for next year. Woo! And I did not even dare to tell any of my family members about this because I was convinced that they would tell me that I was completely balmy. They didn't. They were completely over the moon. And how I got through that 7 year, because in Denmark, what you do is, because I'm originally from Denmark, I can't remember if I told you that. In Denmark, from day one, you study the law. And I messed up most of my exams in year one. So I had to redo most of year. There was one exam that I did pass. Not my finest moment, but hey ho, one exam that I did pass and the rest I had to redo. So that added another year to the, normally you spend 5 years studying the law. So that added another year. And then when I got to the master's degree, I needed more space to breathe because the first 3 years are extremely intense and so much to study and read. And as I say, I didn't know that I was experiencing life with dyslexia at that time. I had no idea. Nobody had discovered it for me. So once I had gotten my master's degree after 7 years of studying the law, and I've studied the law for 7 years, so you don't have to, okay? And then I thought, hang on, maybe something is up, you know? And I'm purposely not saying wrong with me because nothing is ever wrong with us in any way, shape, or form. It's just something is up. And so I decided that I wanted to test myself for dyslexia, which is called word blindness in Danish, which is really interesting. So I did that, and it took me a little while to find somewhere that I could become tested because I was an adult. Normally you get tested as a child, and I didn't get tested. And one of the things that made me think about that was when I was sitting my exams, we were allowed to bring our laptops and our printers. So we were bringing like a whole like home office with us. And the others were, we were all given the start signal, and the others were just so fast. You know, they were reading and then they were tapping, and I was like, oh my goodness, you know, slightly panicking. And the only subject that I did really well in was intellectual property. And I can't remember if I told you this. I wrote a book about all the intellectual property, and my favorite professor from University of Copenhagen, who is a professor of copyright law, he asked me, may I read it? And at first I was like, oh my God, he wants to read it. Oh no, oh no, oh no. And then I thought, yes, of course you may. And so he helped me edit the legal stuff in it, and he wrote the foreword. So that was really, really amazing for me, because that is an actual validation of me, because he does not do that for everybody. And he did also say that I was his favorite student. So, you know, that is a massive gift.
It is a massive gift. And, you know, in that part of your experience, right, the moment where your family supported you in a time when you thought that they were going to absolutely question your sanity, and fighting through an arduous educational process, having no idea that you were working so much harder than everybody else because you were overcoming dyslexia without even knowing that you had it.
I'm not even sure that you can overcome dyslexia. I think that you can just have to accept that it's there and then just get on with it.
Well, but you fought through it with no inkling that you were fighting through anything, right? You thought this was just normal and that school was hard in this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So the perseverance and the resilience to keep on keeping on after, you know, your first year being horrifyingly, you know, the outcomes certainly not what you were expecting or, you know, wanting them to be.
Yeah.
As you've published, then you're out and you've published the book. Talk to me about how you started on this part of your journey. You are the Empress of Trademarks, right? That is a big, bold statement. And what does that mean? And what are you doing with your clients and for your clients?
So the statement, the Empress of Trademarks, is actually because somebody started, a lot of people started referring to me as the Queen of Trademarks. And me being me, I had to make sure that I wasn't infringing on anybody's rights. And in America, somebody has registered either Queen of Trademarks or Trademark Queen, and with the caveat that Queen is generic. And so I thought, okay, I can't make use of that. And I'm building my own legal empire, so Empress makes sense. And there's a further story to this. I don't know if I told you that. Back in the day, I have a vast pool of Swedish relatives. My father was half Swedish. I'm 1/4 Swedish, and I've got French and Spanish ancestry on my mother's side, but that's another story. And so back in the day, there was a couple of my Swedish relatives that were stationed at the Empress and Emperor's court in Vienna. And she was very well liked by the Empress, and she was invited to a ball. And she had this beautiful gown, she put it on, and the story goes, I have no idea how much truth there is in this, but this is how it was told to me. She was walking towards the ball and she meets the Empress and she says, look, I have this beautiful gown and I have no jewelry. And the story goes, the Empress took off her own jewelry and gave it to her. Whole congruency to it, actually. Isn't that beautiful?
It is absolutely a beautiful story. And with this, right, it stirs an emotional response to those of us listening, right? Because it's, you know, you're not calling yourself the CEO, you're not using, right? It is very, it's a special title that you're working with. In this, the power of intellectual property, the risk to businesses, how is taking and making this a conscious choice to protect your intellectual property, right? How is that really being innovative and disruptive for businesses so that they are taking care of their best interest?
So it might not be seen as a disruptive characteristic. It's definitely an intelligent and proactive one, because when you are being a disruptive force, you may very well want to protect that, so that because you are doing that, you're actually, as your book says, future-proofing your business, which is highly important, because because you are a disruptor, you don't want to expose yourself to the risk of hostile takeover. Say if you wanted to invite in an investor, and the investor is a savvy business person, we all know that. And so what the investor will do is they will take a look. How are you running your business? How are you protecting your intellectual property? If you do not have any protection in place, bam, they can and will perform a hostile takeover, and you are left with your dreams shattered. And you're just wondering, oh, gosh, what happened here? You know, and I do not want that for anybody, because that is so devastating.
It is. So talk to me a little bit about the things that really and truly are intellectual property that we may not realize are.
So the content that you write for, say you are somebody who have created a system or a process or a program that you take people through. You can be a coach, you can be a consultant, you can be a specialist, an expert. Doesn't really matter what title you give yourself. The minute that you've created something that leads somebody from A to not only B, C, D, but all the way to Z, as we say in English, you say C in American, I understand that. So you have a whole list of steps and a whole roadmap that you take people through. And that roadmap in and of itself needs your love and your protection. Does that make sense to you? So all of that, even your books, if you look at my book, I have put my trademarks in on every single page. That is because a trademark is a far stronger protection than copyright. And all the intellectual property goes hand in hand, as I always say to people. So that means that copyright, trademarks, patents, utility models, trade dress, there are so many things, even your non-disclosure agreements, you know, all of this is important to protect what it is that you do. Is that helpful?
It is absolutely helpful. So everybody listening, watching, right, there are so many dimensions to the work that we create that are protectable that I think we overlook. And one of them is visual. So Celeste, will you talk a little bit about a visual trademark? So behind you, you have your trademark.
Yes, this is my trademark. You cannot tell that it's a registered one because this banner is old and it was created before I registered my trademark. However, this is a so-called Figurative mark. So within the trademark world, there are so many different, and it's so interesting. So there are the traditional ones: word mark, figurative mark, shape mark, position mark, pattern brand, color marks, and they come in two variations: a single color and the color combination. And then you've got sound marks and multimedia marks, and the list goes on. So this was just a few of them to help you. Also, what is really important when you are creating the content for your business, you may very well be somebody who loves to take photographs of things and use your own photographs. Your photographs also need your protection. And that is most of the time copyright. However, as a photographer, you may have a brand that you can stick on as well as the copyright, making it even stronger, as I say before, because copyright only protects for your entire lifetime. And in the European Union or the European Economic Area, it is for 70 years after your death. In Mexico, if I remember correctly, it's 100 years after your death. Let me look at what it says about...
The US is 50 years.
Is it 50 years? All right,
Yes.
Good. Okay, so it's really important to know and understand how many years it is. The trademark can exist virtually indefinitely. As long as there are people around who can see the value of what it is that you've created, they may very well need to and want to uphold the right for it. And there's a renewal process. In America, you have to also provide proof of usage after the first 5 years. You don't do that in the European Economics Area at all. So that is specific to America. In Canada, a trademark gets renewed every 15 years. In other countries, it's every 10 years. I haven't, most countries, I won't say every country, but most countries, it's every 10 years. It may vary from place to place. And as I say, Canada is 15.
Right. With this need, and as you went down the list of all of the different things that can be protected, right? Our audio, our sound, our visuals, right? In this day and age, businesses are creating more and more content, and content is in the form of audio and video, and as opposed to just printed materials, right? What we're doing today is just exponentially bigger and more dimensional than 5 years ago. With this, if somebody is listening to us going, oh my God, I don't know what I need to know, what are, I guess, describe sort of what the process is in working with you, and what some of the roadblocks and setbacks some of your clients may have experienced and how you've navigated through them.
So the best thing is to get in touch with me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest place to find me. Just type in the Empress of Trademarks, boom, I come up. And then you contact me and you say, look, I really would like to learn more about this. What can we do? And then we will set up a 15-minute conversation. And in that, I will most likely say, the first step for you is to get the initial conversation so that we can establish what it is that you've got. Because some of the people that have come to me have come with completely generic marks. And that is so sad, because it means they have wasted time, money, and energy, because people become attached to, I'm quite attached to this, by the way. And so people become attached, and I totally understand that. And so when I say to them, look, this is not something I can register, they think, oh, but I love this. And yes, it may look very beautiful. That's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the looks of it. We're talking about the legality of it. And that is why I have actually created a program that is aimed towards the graphic designers and those creative people who I totally love and adore, who are out there, who are creating these visuals for people, because with the exception of Denmark, they don't learn the legal requirements. I just learned the other day that actually Denmark has a little bit of the legal requirement in the education of graphic designers, which is like, woohoo, for me. However, there are so many that don't learn that, and they just don't know. They just listen to what you as their client will ask them, and then they will make the graphic representation. But that's just so sad, and that's why I'm wanting to disrupt this whole situation, me disrupting something, actually. You wouldn't expect that, would you? However, this course is called the Unique Branded Blueprint. I obviously have a registered trademark called the Unique Branded Blueprint, and this is as I say, not for the normal person, unless somebody wants to. Of course, they can go through it. That's not a problem. However, it is mainly aimed at the graphic designers. And I say this because last week I attended an event where someone said, oh, but why not let normal people go through it as well? And I'm like, no problem. They can totally go through it if they want to. You know, who am I to stop people? I'm not going to stop anyone. If someone says to me, look, I want to go through this myself, fine by me. I'm open to it, you know? And so if it's that situation, then that's one situation. Then let's go back to the trademark registration. So after the initial conversation, what we will talk about all of the nitty-gritty stuff that is required so that I can, and in the European economic area, we call it Nice classifications after the French town of Nice. But in America, I think you just call them classifications. And that means, so I have 6 classifications with this trademark. And one of them is that I want to be able to teach people. And that, so those are the things that you have to go through. What is it that I want to stick my trademark onto? And obviously, I've got my trademark in here. So, you know, it's about knowing and understanding where are you in your business and what is it actually that you are wanting to achieve? Where do you want to go? How far are you along that road? Are you even in a place where you can invest in this? Because this can become massively expensive. There are no global trademarks. There is a European one, and that means you get 27 countries in one. I was trying to do it with my fingers, but I don't have 27 fingers. But you, with the European Union, you get 27 countries in one fell swoop. There is one massive caveat, and that is really important that people know and understand. If your trademark falls in one of the member states, it falls in all 27. So that can be really devastating. So it's strategic to say, okay, I want to have particular registrations in France, Germany, Denmark, Norway, you know, whatever. Norway isn't even part of the European Union. You get the picture. Yep. Then if you want national registrations, that's another thing. And obviously with the European trademark, you pay in euros. However, me being who I am, I can access what is called the Madrid system. And this is really, really misleading because the Madrid system isn't the European one. That's the global one. That's where I can register American trademarks, can register Canadian, Australian, euro. I can access all. However, this is a more expensive system because you pay in Swiss francs. You would think that because it's called the Madrid system, it would be in euros, but no, it is in Swiss francs.
So in this, as our audience is listening, right, business owners, entrepreneurs who are at the beginning of a journey and starting in that startup, in that thinking mode, this is one of those things they need to add to the list, right? This is something that from a strategic planning perspective, understanding what your intellectual property is and how you can protect it is something we probably overlook. And I say
this is
we
a really
probably
good place to start. Sorry, this is a really good place to start. You can get it on Amazon. Sorry.
And so we will put the link to Celeste's book. That is a really good starting point that talks about with the copyright. We'll put links to that in the show notes. We'll put links to her on LinkedIn so that we can find you. But this journey, right, this is a piece that I think a lot of people overlook. And I say a lot of people because I will fall into that category. I was many years into my journey before I even began to consider that I had intellectual property or that there was something about it that needed to be protected, and fell into the category of having a generic phraseology that failed to pass registration. That if I had been guided and had thought about it strategically and been educated, I would have gone through a different experience. So I know I am more like most than not, because this is something you just don't know what you don't know until you talk to an expert. So Celeste, in all of this, for the audience that's listening, what would be the number one piece of advice you would give them to start their journey? Read your book?
Yeah, read the book. That is, and it's not just about copyrights. It's copyright, trademarks, and more. So it's got mention of most of it. And that's the best place to start, because that way, yeah, and you don't have to read the whole book from A to Z if you don't like to and you don't want to. It's totally up to you. I will not get offended. Read whatever is relevant to you in the moment, and then you have it in your bookcase, and you may think, oops, at a later stage, there was something in that book. Hang on, she spoke about other types of intellectual property. Maybe I should go back and have a look. And then that's when you then realize, oh, there are other things. And there are, and she says that it all goes hand in hand. Wow, that is so interesting. And the more intellectual property you've got, the stronger shield of protection you've got. So that's really important also to know and understand. Is that
Absolutely
helpful?
It is so incredibly helpful. So for the audience, right, this is something we need to do early. We need to plan for our intellectual property, for our copyrights, our trademarks, and how we're protecting what we're building, and that it grows over time. And the more content, the more intellectual property we create, the more important it is that we have, in Celeste's words, a strong shield. And to that, we've talked about, Celeste, we can find you on LinkedIn, the Empress of Trademarks, the fastest, easiest way. But you also have something to give the audience today. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So my free gift is called, it's called 5 Top Tips to Maximize Your Business. And it's completely free of charge. All you have to do is put in your email and you will get it automatically. And that will also give you pointers of the best 5 steps to maximize your business. And who doesn't love that?
So our best first step is a free gift from Celeste. And then obviously there's detail in her book. Through LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach out to her and contact if you want to have a conversation and take it to the next step and actually action your protection of your intellectual property. Celeste, it has been a great conversation today. Thank you for sharing your story and your passion for helping business owners protect what they have invested so much into creating, right? These are the things that we live and die for. They are our babies. And there are so many places where I think so many people are probably unprotected, that you have opened some eyes and ears through the course of today's conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much again for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Fabulous. And for the audience out there, you know my rules. Don't get left behind. Join me next time.
That's it for today's episode of Disrupt and Innovate. Head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Every single week, one lucky listener that posts a review on iTunes will win the grand prize drawing, a $15,000 private VIP day with Lisa Levy. And be sure to head over to disruptandinnovate.com and get your free copy of Lisa's gift, and join us on our next episode.